Welcome to See for Yourself. I am Medusa and I'm joined today by
Hedusa.
Medusa. All right. So nice to have you here.
Yeah, well, it's good to be here. I'm happy to be double Dusaing it with you.
Yeah. Okay. Today we are covering a film that is starring Johnny Depp. It's called Chocolat. It has become a cult film classic.
Wow, okay, that's exciting.
Yes. So, thinking about the name of the movie, what would you think that this movie would be about?
There's this I really want it to be about traveling salespeople. That's what they do is they're just like, yeah, and we'll sell chocolate. There was this really great bit in SpongeBob when I was coming up, and I loved the chocolate bit. They decided they were going to be chocolate entrepreneurs, and I would love it to be about that. But that feels a little bit, okay, we've seen that already. You're just copying the SpongeBob thing. We're copying the SpongeBob thing, but with Johnny Depp. I mean, already hard not to love. I guess if I were to try to do something more original, I guess I would want maybe we live in a world where like nobody ever found like sweets of any kind, or like sugar is purely used for like maybe making baked goods or more serious, quote unquote serious confectionery needs, and one person's just trying really hard to get some chocolate made. He's discovered this bean, he's trying to work it in, and like everyone's like, no, that's dumb, it's a stupid idea, but he's just really trying to change the world with his chocolate.
Well, because the star of the movie, one of the stars of the movie is Johnny Depp, and he's made another movie about chocolate.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, or Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, something like that.
Do you think it's going to be something along them lines, or a spin-off of that, or a
Oh,
precursor to that?
I don't know why, but I kind of would love that, but I doubt it. There's no way, right? Like, there's no way that Johnny Depp in this movie is just like, all right, guys, hear me out. What if there was a giant factory that all it made was different candies and chocolates? Maybe that's how the movie ends. Like, he's actually the guy who invents chocolate in this film. He invented chocolate. That's how the movie ends. Is he invents it and people love it. At the end, like maybe after the credits are done rolling, he's like sitting in a dark room with a bunch of like bigwig types at the time, and they're like, yes, what's your next move, Mr. Johnny Depp's character? And he's like, I'm gonna build a chocolate factory.
Would you go see this movie just because Johnny Depp's in it? Would you be intrigued by just the word chocolate?
This is very much the producer's sort of mindset. I have to make a film that will interest a person, automatically interest them, automatically get them in the seat. That's a smart way to review films. I don't know. When I think of chocolate as a film title, it sounds kind of sexy. Like, I don't know why chocolate just sounds like it's about like a romance between one character and another, and there's something like sensual about it. And unfortunately, that's just not my demographic. I want a giant monster, or I want someone to rebel against a terrible society and fight back against oppression. Those are my kinds of stories that I like to see. And I just don't see that with the title Chocolate. As far as Johnny Depp and his acting go, I will say I have been tainted by his performance in Pirates of the Caribbean and how he has like sort of continued to play that similar character. But I liked almost everything he made before those films. So I'm interested to see. I know Chocolate is older or for some reason I think Chocolate is older than Pirates of the Caribbean. I could be wrong about that. But I tend to believe that his acting is better pre-blowing up in that film franchise. So I'm hopeful for him. I would be more interested in seeing a pre-Pirates of the Caribbean Johnny Depp than a post-Pirates of the Caribbean Johnny Depp.
Well, I can understand that. It's a vast difference from some of the movies that he's played before. I'll just talk a little bit about the film. The film is about a woman and her daughter. They move into this remote village, and she proceeds to open up a chocolate factory, or a chocolate shop, really. And this just goes against the whole community. It really takes you on a ride, I think. I think this movie should be seen by people of all ages. Well, we'll see what I mean when we get into the movie, but I think it's a wonderful movie, and I'm so pleased that you're going to watch it today.
Yeah. I mean, I said like fighting against an oppressive system, and it kind of sounds like there is an oppressive system in this movie. So maybe the blurb would have been enough to get me into the seat, or to get me to buy a ticket or whatever, however you want to think about it. Maybe after watching watching the trailer, I would have been like, yeah, this is pretty good. When did you come across Chocolate, or did you see it when it opened?
No, I didn't see it when it opened, but I kept hearing about it. Every time I tried to find it, I couldn't find it. And then did more research on it, and I found that it was a cult classic, and that I just presumed that's why I was having trouble finding a copy of it. And finally, one day I found it, and then I was just really hooked on it. Where is the movie set, do you think?
So, if the setting and the time have to be against someone opening a chocolate shop, I would think it has to be like 1700s or maybe 1800s. You know, we love picking on the French in this podcast, so I'll say for the French. Those French people are just like, ugh, God, chocolate, disgusting. We eat frogs, you know, and the complete and utter lack of frogs in the menu for this place is just, they hate it. They hate it. That's what I'm going to say. 1800s France.
All right. Well, I'm going to be anxious for you to see this along with me and see if you like it as much as I do. Do you think there'll be any really cool things that they do with chocolate in this film?
Okay, if I'm being realistic, they'll probably do like a cool chocolate sculpture, right? Like there'll be like a big chocolate rabbit, and then that's how chocolate rabbits were invented, or something, you know. What I would love to see, and I'm not saying we have to do this, I'm not saying it has to be in the movie. I'd like it if it were, maybe, I don't know. Maybe they like pour chocolate on the bad guy, like the bad dude who's saying like, you can't be, you know, doing all this in this town because we're not about that you're bad. They pour chocolate on him, and it's just such hot chocolate that it just, you know, after they're done pouring it on him and the chocolate stops pouring, now all that's left is his skeleton, and like, oh, they killed him with really hot chocolate, oh. And that would be cool for me. We don't have to do this. It doesn't ruin the movie if it's not in there. It's just what I want.
Do you think there'll be any romance in this movie?
Well, I did say that the name itself implies sensuality to me. So for some reason, chocolate as a word is just a sensual word. So yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe Johnny Depp is he's interested in the shop owner, or maybe maybe she's interested in him. Maybe that's the whole reason she's opening the chocolate shop. She's just like, I'm in this new town, and this guy has just captivated me, and he's always saying how everything here tastes bad and doesn't have any life in it. And so I'll create this food that does, and I'll open a shop around it. Or I'll try to introduce, maybe they don't create the chocolate, maybe they just have brought chocolate from wherever they're from, and they say, hey, try this chocolate. And he's like, what is chocolate? And then they start a romance because he just falls in love with the chocolate, and he helps her build the thing, and he supports her when she's having difficulties, maybe.
Yeah. Do you think that there are many relationships in this, or if it's just narrowed down to a small cast of characters?
Oh, is it an ensemble piece, or is it a more of a farce kind of thing? I do love bottle movies, or movies where it's just like one location, 2 or 3 characters, that's it. I think that could be really, it's just Johnny Depp, the shop owner, and her daughter, and that's it for the whole movie, and all we get to see of like the other people is like, oh, I came in to see you at the shop today, but I saw this note on the door, and it's from the mayor, and he's saying you better get out of town, or what have you. You can do that, and it's super cool when you do. I will say it's a little less exciting. I understand why people generally don't love it, but it is interesting to see, right? Like to try to make a full... How long is the movie? Do we know?
I can't remember how long it is.
Let's just say 2 hours. A movie with Johnny Depp, you kind of want to have a little more time, and it's a romance, or it seems like it's probably going to be a romance. 2 whole hours of just one place with just these people is kind of hard. So I get if maybe they don't want to do that. I think that like a small ensemble cast of maybe like, I'm going to say the number 10. Let's say 10 different people. And each of them is very distinct. One of them's the mayor. One of them's the doctor. He's the only doctor in town. One of them's the soldier from a foreign war who's really like in his head about what he's had to see and do. They're all like quirky and like distinctive characters, but I guess I really only gave one character, the soldier from the foreign war. The other 2 are just jobs. I'm bad at this, it sounds like.
Well, do you think are you afraid it's going to be a chick flick?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I think I am a little afraid of that. I think that...
because of Johnny Depp?
I don't think it's Johnny Depp that I'll put all the blame on. I think the title has something to do with it. The fact that we are dealing with a female leading film, typically when it's a woman in the lead, you're going to have... It's sort of a chick flick a little bit. I will say out of all the different genres and subgenres, rom-coms, chick flicks are my least explored. And it's terrible because I genuinely genuinely believe that any genre can be done in such a way that I'll like it, right?
Yes, yes.
But I do feel that's the genre that I explore the least.
The reason I wanted you to watch this is because it's unbelievable that one film can have this much. So I'm going to be interested to see what you're going to think about it when we get done watching the movie. Is there anything you think might be in this movie that would ruin it for you?
I mean, other than Johnny Depp playing Captain Jack Sparrow, if I catch even a whiff of that, it's going to ruin it immediately. We've talked a little bit about it potentially being a rom-com or a chick flick. If we do have that, I just don't want one of the things to be, if a good romantic partner comes along, it'll fix everything in your life. That is a very common trope in these kinds of movies. Well, if you just have a good man come along, he'll totally fix all your problems. Or vice versa, if you have a good woman come along, she'll fix all of your problems. And I just don't, I've never seen that done well. I'm open to Chocolat maybe changing my mind, but every time I see it, I consistently have problems with it, and it ruins films for me. Like, holistically, there will be a film I love, and then that one thing comes up, and I'm like, oh, this kind of ruins the character's growth and change that they could have had in this film just for a cheap, oh, look how close they are because she fixed him, or because he fixed her,
Yeah, I think it's much better to see an ending where the person actually fixes herself.
I agree.
Yeah, so let's hope that can happen.
Do you have any examples of films where you've seen like the character fix themselves and you felt really good about it? Like, yeah, you did it, and like you can still have a romantic partner and fix yourself. Like, that's totally normal.
Oh, I'm sure I have. None comes to mind right now, but I'm sure that I have.
That's okay. To be honest with you, I can't think of one myself. But again, this is my least explored genre, so
Right.
I am a little bit out of it.
Well, we are coming up on that time. Do you have any last minute things you'd like to predict about the movie?
I'd like to see a scene where Johnny Depp just animalistically tears into some chocolate. Like, he's just gobbling it down and he's just slamming it. It's very ugly. It's just getting all over him, I'd love to see that kind of a feral response to something that's like new or exciting or done really well, something like that. I think that would be a cool, like, very specific scene to include in this movie, but I think it'd be fun to watch.
I can see your image coming out of your body on that. You've already foreseen something that you think is going to be really, really good in this, that needs to be in this. So let's go. Let's watch this movie and see what happens.
Okay, great.
Okay, we're back from watching the movie. I have to ask you, what are your thoughts?
I guess I'm really surprised by how well this movie handles its love story. The love story element of any of these, like, drama films it's very slice of life, kind of. You're sort of just watching a day in the life, but there's more to it when you look at the specifics. But whenever you do that, and you inject a romantic element to it, it's very easy to fall down into, like, the pits of, it's just a rom-com now, and I don't think this movie ever does that. It never fully commits to romance or fully commits to comedy. It is trying to do slice of life, but elevated. More than just a day in the life. It's something more. Do you think that there were any elements in the film that elevated it from what could have been a very mundane story? Because I don't think anyone would argue this is a mundane story. There's obviously a lot of interesting stuff going on here. Were there any things that, like, specifically lifted it up in that way for you?
I think for me, it was the cast of characters, how they were bought into the movie. They did a great job with the characters. It was so vast and varied, and it was just kind of took you a lot of different places. But being the theme of the movie, I thought, was the morality and how it could have lifted that community up or just totally torn it apart, and how it could have easily wrecked people's lives.
I know that you don't need me to say this, but I just want to applaud you for having a very good grasp of the term theme. And a theme in film has to not just be a topic, but to be what the film is trying to say about that topic. So you've noted the topic of morality and the theme that morality can be used to separate people or to bring them together. And it just depends on how you wield it, that it changes. How the outcome is based on how you wield it.
Exactly.
I think that your assessment of people should watch this, people should be aware of this, anybody of any age or character or mindset should be able to see this and feel something from it and learn something from it. I think this is absolutely that type of film, yes.
During the movie, I had mentioned that in one scene, it reminded me of something that's going on in my family right now.
Mm-hmm.
These things were hitting home, and I think probably for some people it would be. You could pick out maybe not just one particular thing, but somewhere in that movie you could find something that you can relate to.
Yeah, I know that the movie has this sort of elderly woman. She's got a lot of salt to her, you know. She's very worldly. She's seen a lot of things. And so, of course, when, you know, the magical lady comes to town, she's a little bit like, I don't know about you. I've been swindled in the past, and I know your type, you know. She wears her down over time, but they reveal that this older woman is having this, like, difficult struggle she's going through, and she's actively choosing to, like, confront it on her own terms, to face death the way that she wants to. She says, let's show everyone that we're willing to go down dancing. I think that there's a particular member of our podcast who comes on here just about every week that they would really appreciate this character and their philosophy on how to live life and how to die with grace and dignity.
Exactly. I particularly liked the cinematography in this movie. I just thought it was so beautifully done. The light and the dark. It's, by the way, it's a black and white film. And I want to mention that you were previously talking about Dame Judi Dench, who just always knocks it out of the park.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yes, her role in this movie was so good, so awe-inspiring. Yeah, I appreciated that.
It's almost a crime to say that Johnny Depp stars in this film. He's in it, certainly, and he has a cool character. I will say it's a little too close to Captain Jack Sparrow for my liking, but it's not exactly him, so I'm willing to give it a pass. It's in this weird gray area for me, where he's like clearly gearing up to play that Johnny Depp, Captain Jack Sparrow character, but he's not quite there yet. I'm thankful for that. There was one aspect of the cinematography, or maybe I should say the editing. This is a very personal thing, so if you don't feel the same way, I understand. Some people might call it a gimmick. Some people might say that it requires a certain level of skill in storytelling, but one of my favorite things is the match cut. The match cut occurs whenever you have one thing happening in a scene, and when you cut to the next scene, it's matching that thing that is happening in some way or another. And we have that in this movie in the scene where the characters are going about their days and a wind blows by. And that's one of the themes of the film, is the north wind, the wind that pushes us towards progress, you know, towards moving to the next thing, keeps us moving forward. So you could say that this is like sort of hearkening to that. I wished that when they cut between these characters and the wind, they had used a more precise match cut where it's like they're, let's say, I think in one of them, she's like chopping chocolate or something, and then it cuts to the mayor and he's not doing anything to do with chopping chocolate or chopping a thing, or maybe he's like, you know, he's got his hands on some papers and he's like ripping them, and that's like similar to cutting. You know, you can kind of do a very one-for-one match instead of just a vague match.
Like
I like those
fading into.
Yeah, I like the cuts that are the match cuts that are precise. Like it's the one person's cutting and then we jump over into another person who's also cutting or doing something similar to cutting, you know, a similar body motion perhaps, you know.
Right.
But that's very subjective. It's not the kind of thing that's like, this makes the movie bad. It's just, I prefer this, and they had a good opportunity for it and they just didn't.
Yeah. Also wanted to mention that this movie was taking place in 1959.
Yes.
And I thought, sitting here watching the movie, drawing comparisons with what was going on in the United States in 1959 and what was going on in that little French town at that time. They were a little backward from what the United States was. But it didn't take away from, but it certainly could show you, you know, what things were like in that place.
You want to say specifically what you mean by comparing?
What made me think about it was when the priest says, you know, he's singing Elvis Presley. And I'm thinking during 1959, there was a lot of American bandstand, you know, a lot of music coming out of Detroit, you know,
yeah.
Motown, and then this little remote village. They just weren't aware of that.
Yeah.
Everything was still just a sin, you know.
So there's a little behind.
A little behind, yeah.
That makes makes
I
sense.
thought that was interesting that they did that much to kind of show the difference in time and place. Did you have a favorite character?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think I really liked Luke,
Yes,
the son of
young man.
he seemed like a young boy in a repressive town.
I agree.
Young men in any repressive situation usually are going to like go the other way with it. Like
Right.
he's just looking for the macabre in everything he sees, and he's just really interested in that like darker, more edgy stuff. And like, yeah, that's how young men are. Like they think that stuff's interesting. You
And
know?
and the lovely grandmother, played by Dame Judi Dench, she could provide that for him. And there was a lot of difference in their ages, but she was cool.
Yeah.
She really was.
I find her to be a really interesting character as well. I think that whole sub story of like Luke, his grandmother, and his mother, the dynamic there is it could hold a whole movie on its back. I think that's another point I want to make about this movie is that it's very indulgent.
Yes.
It's a 2 hour long movie, and there's a lot of scenes that don't need to be there, and a lot of characters that are very well explored that don't need to be well explored. But you walk away from it really feeling a connection for a lot of different people.
Right.
These characters who feel very real and feel very like well loved and well explored, well ventured into. I think that a part of the argument here, part of the theme, if you will, is that overindulgence is a good thing.
Right.
And this movie certainly, it's 2 hours and 1 minute long. That's overindulgent.
Yeah.
By about 31 minutes. I think that's interesting that they do that. But you asked me my favorite character. Which one was yours? Was it Dame Judi Dench's character?
Yes, it was, because usually someone playing that age in this scenario would have been the uptight. You do it this way, this way, this way. It's the way it's always been done. But yet she was the free spirit.
Yes.
And I loved that,
Mm-hmm.
that she gave so much to her grandson, and they shared so much in such a little time, and he'll have that forever.
So maybe we should make this distinction going forward because I feel it might be worth it. So both of us in our answers, I liked Luke because I felt like he was like a real, young man, and you liked the grandmother because you felt like she was something more than expected, right? Both of those things are a writing. You like the way they were written,
Right.
right? And I like the way Luke was written.
Right.
Both of those are like compliments to the writer, but not compliments to the actors. Did you feel like any one performance, like the actor performing the character, really captured the character well?
The gal that, and I don't know her name, I apologize, that came into
Josephine.
that had been beaten by her
Josephine's
husband.
my favorite as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that her performance as like a woman who there's so much subtle nuance to her character from the writing as well. I mean, to not note the excellent writing for her character is heinous. Absolutely great writing for her. But to portray a woman who's like, I'm stuck in this bad situation, there's nothing I can do, and I'm trying to find ways to rebel against it, and people are terrible to me about it. They're on to me for my little tiny rebellious things that I do, and they're mean to me, and it's just driving me kind of crazy. I believe it. I believe that she's become frantic over, her terrible situation.
I believed it as well. I could feel when she was getting beat up by her husband, it was real. It was, there was no acting there. She made it real. It was just real. I loved that.
I liked how they portrayed defeating Serge as an easy thing. I think she literally says, like, it was like swatting a fly. And, like, it does look pretty easy in the moment, too. It's not like it's, like, played up like Hollywood style. It's a very slow, clean tap on the back of the head, and he's out.
He's out.
And honestly,
it felt good.
Well, that's how it should be in real life. You hit someone in the back of the head with a hard object, they're done.
They're done.
They need a doctor now. That's how that works. Don't get hit in the head, people. It's not the place you want to get hit.
No, and if you hit me one more time, I'm looking for a skillet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's really, really interesting. They actively chose not to have someone else come in and save the girls. Because in any other film, in a weaker film, they would have had a man show up and save the girls.
Exactly.
I love that scene. That's another reason why this isn't a chick flick. Because chick flicks love to give, like, the romantic partner character a chance to come in and be big, strong savior type.
Right.
And no, the problem is with them, let them handle it. I'm not saying that if someone's in danger, you don't help them. I'm saying that in a film, when we're writing a film, let your characters who are in danger solve their own problems.
Yeah, like it would be in real life. Yeah.
You're not always going to have somebody come in and save you. yeah. And the more we put that in films, the more people think that that's how it should be.
Yeah.
No, the way it should be is you figure it out. You gotta save yourself.
I thought Johnny Depp was playing it loose. He was not overreaching. He wasn't overacting. He was just kind of mellow. I was surprised that they brought him in for the last shot of him. I just thought he'd go off into the sunset, that was the end of him. I was surprised that happened, that they came back in, but I guess, you know, they thought people would want to see that maybe.
When you have Johnny Depp, you use Johnny Depp, right? Like,
yeah.
I guess that's what it is. I think his mellowness is what I didn't like, because I would have directed Johnny Depp to be more happy-go-lucky. You know, he's just this big, bright ball of sunshine, and that way, whenever he takes his daughter or his handler, I guess, she calls him her pony.
Yeah.
And, it's very funny. But this little girl, he takes her to get some seltzer water, and they tell him, like, I don't provide for animals or something. I don't sell to animals.
Horrible.
And I think that if we had established his character as this big, bright, happy, you know, almost like he's trying to cheat you out of some money, but he's just like so happy, and you kind of want to, you know what, fine, man, you're such a happy guy, I'll give it to you. In that moment, if he's been that like happy-go-lucky, they tell him like, no, we're not going to serve you. We think you're animals. And that smile that he's always got on just like falls all the way off.
Yeah, because he's been made to look bad in front of his daughter, and his daughter's been called, you know, subhuman.
I think that would have been a really like hard moment for us as viewers to see him go from like the cheery happy guy, oh no, you know. And I didn't love his opening lines either. From a writer's perspective, they were very, people think this about us. I'm going to explain to you how this world works and how people perceive my type of a person, you know. Too straightforward. Don't give me that like that directly, you know what I mean?
Yeah, if you already know what people think about you because you've been down this road before, that was a flaw that I thought. Why would you take your child into that situation when you knew something could arise?
Yeah, and why would you just tell a complete stranger, this is how people view me, and it's not very good.
Right.
A little backwards, you know. I also thought that there was a missed opportunity where he's like, that's not my favorite, that's not my favorite. And then at the end he could say, she's like, all right, hot chocolate, that's your favorite. Everybody likes hot chocolate. And he's like, no, you're my favorite. And that could be like a big,
right,
you know, moment. Or maybe he never says you're my favorite, but the subtext is, oh no, it's not my favorite. And he like leans into her, and then we can be done with Johnny Depp for the movie now that he's like leaned in and it's implied. It's not stated, yes, but it's implied. Or maybe the little girl can say, I know what his favorite is, and look at the mom, and then maybe she blushes, and it's never stated, but you know, again, you can use, there's a lot of ways in film to imply something without stating it,
exactly.
You know? And then maybe after she blushes and like she's like, go on, get out of here now, she goes, it's hot chocolate, mom, and then she's totally wrong, or maybe, you know, there's a lot of ways to make this fun.
Did you think it was a good choice of towns for the movie?
What was the name of the town?
I don't remember.
Oh, I don't know either. I like that it was in France. We were right about France. We nailed that one, boys. All right, let's go. Nobody eats any frogs in the movie, which is disappointing. And we didn't get to see Johnny Depp, like, just devour some chocolate. But we did get the mayor, who is an actor that I've forgotten the name of, because I'm an idiot. I love that actor. He's so good. He was in, he played Dr. Octopus in Spider-Man 2. I know you're a huge Spider-Man fan, so he played that character, and he did a great job, and he did this character, and he was amazing. And we did get to see him just go to town on some chocolate.
I thought, when he was doing it, I thought, well, you nailed it. Somebody's going to devour that chocolate. And they did.
Yeah, just an inhumane.
Had to.
A wild love for chocolate, which is what we want to see in a movie about a food. You want to see someone just do something crazy with the food.
And they did it. We weren't disappointed on that, were we?
It was good. It was good. I also like that that's the showdown. The showdown, as it is set up in this film, because every film has a moment where like two different ideologies have to clash together in an explosive sort of moment, right?
Right.
In this one, it's a little bit weaker because Vivian's not there. She is not at the showdown.
Right.
But her stand-in is this chocolate woman. And the chocolate woman gets attacked brutally by...
Brutally.
Yeah, just cut out... Okay, ribbons. by the mayor or the count. The count is his name. The count just cuts it up and then falls into the chocolate. And at that moment, I think I realized the thing that I took away from that moment was she's killing him with kindness. And he talks just in the previous scene about rebirth and how like the Easter Sunday is a day of rebirth, and he goes in there in the middle of the night, probably around midnight, one might say.
Right.
So at the time of it becoming, Easter Sunday, you could say that he does get reborn as a new man who has now overindulged. Again, overindulgence is a good thing, and it makes him into a more accepting and tolerant man. The side of morality or religion that is good and helpful and brings us together, a willingness to tolerate one another and include people with ideologies separate from your own.
Well, having watched it, having discussed it, do you think that you will go away as thinking about this movie from time to time?
Oh, no, absolutely. I think I'll definitely be thinking about this movie. It's got so many interesting little choices that it made. And I think that whenever I think about what a woman-led film can be like, I'll think of Chocolate. I think that this movie handles having a woman protagonist beautifully, just masterfully.
I agree.
For whatever reason, Hollywood films still, to this day, struggle with. It's like trying to get to the moon, like NASA sometimes can do it and other times they can't. It just depends on the day of the week, I guess. It's the same thing with women-led films in Hollywood. Sometimes they can do it and other times they can't. With Chocolate, they definitely nailed it, and I'm glad to see it. I'll be referencing it in the future whenever we have a woman-led film. I'll be like, it's better be as good as Chocolate. You have that as a reference point all the time.
Okay, so now we've watched my choice, and next time it's going to be your choice. Have you got things you're thinking of?
Oh, I've got quite a few movies for you. I'm trying to understand if how open you are to a radically different kind of movie.
Oh, I'm open.
Okay, I love the enthusiasm. If you're saying you're down to clown, then clown we shall.
Yes, I'm open. I love new experiences.
Actually, now that I think of it, Chocolate's kind of no. Chocolate is not the first black and white film we've done for this podcast. We've done one before. It was The Tingler. Was the one. For some reason, I think there might have been another one, but I think that's not right. I do think that Chocolate is the first for this season. If this comes out in season 2 of the podcast, which I'm hoping that it will, this will be the first for season 2.
Good.
Which is good. We need to include as many of these black and white films.
I agree.
Do you think that there was a reason they made it black and white?
I think the reason was color kind of gets in the way of stuff, I think. And black and white, you just see it for what it is. And it adds so much to it. The way it's shot, just so, like I said, the lightness and the darkness fading in and fading out. And it's just, you get to see it just for what it is.
Do you think that there might be a story-related reason why they chose black and white?
Well, there again, I just think so that the story would stand out. Nothing else would get in the way of it.
I think that they chose to do black and white because we're talking about morality, right? And morality is often discussed
Black or white.
In terms of black, white, and potentially, if you're a nuanced individual, you might say gray, which is interesting because black and white films inherently have gray values to them.
Right.
It's just we always call them black and white films.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think that might have been the specific reason they thought that would be a good little hidden thing that if you're thinking about it, you'll catch it, but if you're not, it doesn't matter if you don't. It's still a beautiful film. And like when you're working with chocolates, you have like your milk chocolates, your dark chocolates, and then your white chocolates. And those are kind of your 3 options. And white chocolate's like the most like basic of the 3. But yeah, like when you're mixing them on a black and white shot, it still looks great.
Yeah.
You're not losing anything. Like people get the difference between dark chocolate, milk chocolate, and white chocolate, even though you've taken all the color out.
And it comes across.
Yeah, you get it. Like you absolutely get it.
Yes. I agree.
Did this film give or teach you anything you weren't expecting it would teach you?
Yes, because I didn't think that, well, I had no idea that it was going to be this type of a movie. I just thought it was going to be more entertaining, but with the lessons and the things that were so real, it really opened my eyes to a movie being made that way.
Slice of life is such a hard thing to pull off.
Right.
And there's other things that are really difficult about this film. So normally a protagonist, and I think we can all agree that Vivian's the protagonist.
Right.
Your protagonist normally starts in a place of comfort. They are in the middle of status quo, and they have to leave status quo either to protect it or to learn something new and then return back to status quo, right? Vivian comes from outside of status quo. She is not in the normal place. She's coming into the place of normality and then fighting against it. That is a much harder thing to do than characters in a place of safety and comfort and status quo, but they must leave because of reason. Once they've gotten that reason taken care of, they will return, but they're now changed in some way. She fights the status quo, and then she changes the status quo, but it hasn't changed her so much that she's forgotten about leaving. She still wants to leave, but decides not to. And I wish there was a more fulfilling reason for her not to leave other than I have successfully changed the status quo. Like once it becomes clear that like the townspeople are on her side, she's still unsure about leaving, but decides not to. And it feels like a lot of the reason why she didn't leave is I changed the status quo, so I guess I'll stay.
It had to be hard for her because she was being judged from the second that she got there. From the very second that she got there, they had already formed an opinion of her.
Do you think there was a moment where people started judging her?
Well, I think at the beginning because she had a child out of wedlock.
Yeah, the moment that she says I'm mademoiselle, not madame. It was very, very well performed, that moment.
Yes.
Just the sudden stop and like, what is it? The pregnant pause there, the very like bloated pause of like, oh.
And to think that you're feeling what she's feeling. You're trying to feel what she's feeling because you're thinking this is her whole life that they've judged. They don't even know her. And the people that are judging her are the people in church who are supposed to be loving and kind and accepting, but yet they're judging her.
Yeah.
They have found it to be their main purpose on life.
Yeah, it's the problem with religion as I've understood it my entire life. Religion in the modern sense isn't about like coming and bringing value to you. It's about coming and taking value away from you.
Exactly.
You have to come and spend time at our church because if you don't, society will look at you differently. You have to come and give money to our church because we need it for church reasons. You have to come and there's all these things that the church is taking from you, but all it gives is some people aren't going to be as mean to you as they could be. It's extortion.
Really leaves a bad taste in your mouth when you see this going on. They have the right to be the judge and the jury of everyone, and they spread the news.
Yeah.
There's no comfort, no kindness, no acceptance.
It's all gossip and finding ways to be aggressive towards people for petty things. Yeah.
And where they think they can set themselves up to be that judge and jury, I don't understand it. Just because they're religious?
I wouldn't know. I mean, I distanced myself from that walk of life a long time ago. I do think that, I think there was a missed opportunity in Luke's grandmother's death. When she dies and they're burying her and they're giving the sermon for her, I think that there should have been an argument between Vivian and Luke's mother. Maybe the count would come in and say, hey, the mother gets to decide. Which I think is the technically correct answer, but morally it is inappropriate because we know that Luke's grandmother, it's never stated, but she seems like she's an atheist. So to have a priest at her burial giving like sermon, very inappropriate.
Well, she's been down the road. She's been treated poorly and she's been judged and become an outcast.
But that's their version of inclusion, or their version of being kind. We'll send a priest to your grave to give sermon even though you were an atheist.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about you at your own funeral.
Yeah, talk that good shit about you. And it's one of two things. They either gossip about you at your funeral, or they talk like you were a saint, a wonderful, beautiful, amazing person, which is untrue to who you really were.
Yeah.
She was a warts and all kind of people. Some people are warts and all people. They don't mind you seeing how ugly they are, or how human they are. They don't mind people seeing them as humans. And humans have flaws, and that's okay. But some people aren't like that. They want to be seen as these pristine, idyllic, magically perfect people who always did everything right and happy and kind and true, even if that's not accurate. And that's, everybody, I think that if it's your funeral, that's a day for you. So if you want to be seen as this idyllic, perfect angel baby boy, you should have that. And if you want to be seen for what you really were, you should have that too. But it's weird that the correct answer is the estranged daughter of this deceased person gets to decide. And I think that would have been a really cool scene to highlight the problem and really let it boil up to the next step, which is how dare she start a fight at this funeral that I'm, reading sermon at or whatever. I'm going to take my knife over to her chocolate shop.
Yeah, they could have said something like, she danced to her own drum beat, but yet she was a loving grandmother, and, they could have gone that way.
Maybe the argument could have just been, hey, it's okay for the priest to give sermon, but you need to give time for everyone else to also go up and say something.
I love that.
And maybe the count is like, no, we don't have time. We have to go to the church immediately after this. And she's arguing that no, don't. And maybe the people there agree with her. So they all go up and give their own little speech. And it's sort of like the count and the church is sort of being replaced by people's own agency, their own ability to speak on a matter. And that's what drives him to get more aggressive with her instead of, I think there really isn't any building up to him deciding to stab her. It's kind of just like he's frustrated with the situation and goes to do it. He's like, oh, I haven't eaten in so long, and this lady, oh man, she's frustrating me. Better go stab her.
He's just weak. He was so weak.
Moment of weakness, certainly. Yeah.
Grab a knife. Oh God.
One of the stories that barely got explored, but I'm not mad that it barely got explored, was the romance story between the older man and the older woman.
That was so cute.
Very cute, yes.
Yes.
But again, it's about the movie touching romance, but never committing to it.
Exactly. It was just there, but it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
It was so sweet.
Yeah, it was in there just enough for you to know, yep, there's a romance here, but not so much that you're like, this is about romance. And I did love, that's probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie, is when that older man with his dog is in the church booth and he's talking to the young priest, and he's kind of caught him in a logical fallacy where he's like, I sinned because I prayed for my dog's health. And he's like, well, you know that God can't do anything for that because dogs don't have souls. And he's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm sorry. And then he says something else, I can't remember what. Oh, right, he went to the chocolate shop because the chocolatier offered his dog something. And he's like, that place is a place of sin, your dog shouldn't go there. And he goes, well, and your dog should be observing Lent. And he goes, well, if he's got no soul, there's no reason for him to observe Lent.
Right.
And I was just blown away by that. I was like, yes, oh, this seems so good. And then it goes right into a scene that's in the same scene. He immediately then starts talking about how he's had sexual thoughts about a woman. And he goes, at your age?
Yeah.
And I'm like, thank you for telling the audience, yep, older people have sexual thoughts. Of course they do.
Of course.
Why wouldn't
They're still alive?
Yeah.
They're breathing?
I believe the quote goes, if they breathe, they're a thought.
Yeah.
And we can all agree with, thought is a term. I'll teach you what thought means. Thought is an acronym that means that hoe over there. And so it's a term usually used to demean a person, calling them a hoe or a prostitute.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, so if you want to call someone a prostitute without having to use the word prostitute, it's kind of a long and cumbersome word, you can say that they're a thought.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. You have that whatever you want now. You can be like, oh, this thought, look at them. There you go. Now you have a cool new insult you can just let loose.
Right, I love new words.
Hit them with it, But yeah, the quote is, if they breathe, they're a thought. So everybody's a hoe.
Yeah.
As long as they're breathing.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Doing that hoe shit.
Got 2 brain cells, you're good.
Mm-hmm. You're capable of it.
It's getting to be about that time. Do you have anything else you'd like to share?
Yeah, so one of my problems with the final movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe's original lineup, they get to, the Infinity War, and then they do Endgame. And Endgame is the last movie in that original lineup, right? And in that movie, they get all the different characters from all the different movies all together in one big last fight, right? And there's a moment where there's this, impossible seeming task. And one of the girl characters comes up and she goes, don't worry, we'll help him out. And then all the girl characters line up and help this man out with his impossible task he's trying to accomplish. And I hated that scene. Not because it's like a girl power moment, but because in an already ridiculous and silly scenario where all these action figures are just slapping against each other, it seems really ridiculous for all of the, specifically just the girls, to line up to help this guy out, even though there are tons of other people around. I get they're busy fighting the other action figures. I get it. It just felt very unearned and just randomly put in there. Some screenwriter somewhere was like, yeah, this would be fucking cool, hoping that somebody would change it, but nobody did. He's like, ooh, you guys kept that in? Why would you keep that in? I feel like the girl power moment in this film is excellent.
Good.
Having the two girls sort of fighting on the stairs and then walking into their kitchen and seeing all the women of the town helping to cook. And then there were also men in there too,
Right.
like the one woman's husband who she's decided to drug with chocolate in order to get him to have sex with her. One of the weirder, I did like that this movie respected physical intimacy as well as romantic intimacy. A lot of the times these Hollywood films sort of conflate physical intimacy with romantic. They're the same thing, or they only pay attention to one and not both. But this movie seemed to pay a lot of attention to both, and I really appreciated that. But I thought the girl power moment in this movie was very well handled, even if they included a couple men. Probably because they included a couple men. You know, men are girls too. Like let's all just be men and girls and men
and be helpful and be a part of the group.
Yeah,
I agree.
Good ending. What did you have anything for me?
Well, the one thing that came to mind just now was I was so glad that they didn't let the child burn up on the boat. It was taking you in that direction, and I just was feeling, don't let it happen. Please do not let that happen.
Right.
And I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah. It would certainly. I think that you could see a version of this movie that's a lot more Shakespearean, where like this big tragic event happens, and that causes all the people to ramp up to the point where they're willing to kill each other over it.
Right.
They could have done that. They could have done the Shakespeare thing, and it probably would have been just as good, I would think. The rest of the movie's so solid, it's kind of hard to fuck it up at that point.
Right.
You make an excellent, hour and 20 minutes of film, and then the last 40 minutes you fuck it up somehow. Very likely. So even if like the producer came down and said, you have to kill the little girl in this movie, okay, we got to do that, they'd still make it good after that. But I do agree. I think that this version of the film, it has a moment or two. The assault scene and then the fire scene are the two big like really dramatic moments.
Yes, where it just built up to such a point that you didn't know what to expect, which way it was going to go.
It sort of knocks the wind out of you. You're watching it, you're like, not in this film.
Right.
That's not right.
Yeah.
You get a vibe for the movie, and then you see these moments that feel a little out of place, and like it's shocking, right? I agree. I think it definitely succeeded in those two scenes specifically in creating a moment of terror. Just good filmmaking at that point, yeah.
Yes, it was, you could get angry at what was going on. You could get very sad at the things that were going on. You could feel what people were doing. I just love this movie so much.
I'm glad to hear that. I had a very good time as well.
Good. So you're happy?
Yeah!
All right. Okay, next time it's going to be your choice.
I can't wait. It's going to be good.
So we're going to close for today, and then we'll see you next time.
Great! Better go stab her.
He's just weak. He was so weak.